How do you make the world of a film feel real to your audience? After all, many films are set in times and places that are very different from what your audience is accustomed to. What makes the audience feel immersed in the film so that it seems not just believable, but natural to them? Today, we're going to dive into how to accomplish this level of audience immersion by taking a look at the 2003 film, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World.
For England! For home! And for the prize!
This is one of the most immersive historical films I've ever seen. And yes, I do realize the irony in pointing out that a film about ships, which are immersed in water, is extremely immersive. It transports the viewer to the era of the Napoleonic Wars, and puts them aboard a British sailing ship. The acting, the sets and costumes, and the writing all work together to create a believable representation of what the sailors on board those sailing ships would have experienced. This film often goes overlooked due to bad release timing. It came out the same year as the final Lord of the Rings film, which, deservedly, swept award season. If it had come out a different year, it most likely would have received a lot more recognition than it ended up getting. Although it sweeps the viewer off to the oceans of 1800 South America instead of to Middle Earth during the Third Age, it is no less worth considering how it accomplishes this task. The film begins with minimal exposition, just a few titles to let the viewer know the time, place, and what the ship is out to do. With this minimal stage setting out of the way, the camera plunges into the ship itself. By the dim light of a lantern held by one of the sailors, we see the bowels of the ship that we will be spending the majority of the film aboard. The cramped visual confines of the lower decks, the swaying of the camera as the ship rocks to and fro, and the quiet creaks and groans of the sails, rigging, and hull immediately anchor the viewer in this world. As the night becomes day, we simply watch the small details of life aboard ship. We get a feeling of normality, of observing an oft-repeated routine. Routine is a great way to immerse your viewers into the world of your film. Whether it's set a long time ago and far, far away, or right down the street last week, your film's setting will seem more lived in and real if you can ground the audience right off the bat. Showing characters going about a daily routine gives a sense that they are real people. After all, most of us have daily routines of how we usually go about our day. So by seeing others doing something similar, even if the actions they are taking are not ones we ourselves have ever done or even understand, we as the audience still get a sense of realism and believability. Getting your audience to buy into the film world is vital if you want them to care about what will happen in your story. A setting that seems fake is at best a distraction from your story, and at worst, it'll be the subject of mockery and scorn from the viewers. We see the crew continue going about their routines on deck. We finally hear dialogue, but it's not all understandable to a layman. Those with nautical backgrounds or knowledge of the era may know exactly what's going on, but for most viewers, much of the dialogue is opaque.
Mr. Callamy, the lead, if you please.
By the mark, 5 fathom. 5 fathom.
I can't be certain.
The characters understand each other, and they're talking in a natural manner. It's as if the audience is simply watching events play out through a window. None of the characters know they have an audience, and so, just as if you overheard a conversation in real life, none of them are going to stop and explain what they're talking about. Instead, it's up to the viewer to use the context clues to understand what's going on. This is a sign of good writing that doesn't feel like it has to hold the audience's hand the entire way along, because a truly immersive film feels like you're watching reality unfold instead of just actors playing out a story. One way to keep this feeling of reality is by using realistic dialogue.
I told her the plan would work well.
Thank God you're
We'll
right.
have them by nightfall, I'd say.
I think we've got him, sir.
And the wind favours us this time.
Don't count your eggs before they're in the pudding, Mr. Calloway.
Use dialogue that the characters would actually use among themselves, not dialogue meant solely to explain things to the audience. This film does a great job of giving the audience all the information they need to understand what's going on, while not having any characters just come out and explain exactly what they're doing. The biggest mistake to avoid in this area is having two characters talk about information that they both already know. This kind of, as you know, dialogue is immersion breaking, since the only reason the characters would be talking about this information is to communicate it to the audience. Yes, there will be times you need to communicate things to the audience, but do it subtly with realistic dialogue and context clues, so that the audience doesn't have their immersion in the film world shattered.
I tell ya, the Devil's at the wheel of that little phantom ship. You better hold fast.
Throughout the film, the attention to historical accuracy and realism is consistent. The costumes and weapons, the character decisions and reactions, and the events of the story itself are all believable and do nothing to pull back the curtain and reveal the unreality of the film world to the audience. The film embraces the world it's creating in both the big and little details. Because of this, every moment, from the interpersonal conflicts that arise between men cramped aboard ship to the literal conflict of ship-to-ship warfare, feels like something that could truly happen. The audience feels the danger of the whizzing bullets, the flying debris, and the hacking weapons. The characters' pain, fear, and excitement is ours as well, because we, as the audience, are fully immersed in this world and this story. You must keep the immersion consistent throughout your film. Getting all the details right at the beginning is great, but if you slacken your attention later, the audience will notice. Everything in the film must fit in this world you're creating, and no prop, costume, line of dialogue, or character action can be allowed that would not exist in that world. If you can get that level of detail and accuracy in the film you're creating, then you will have a truly immersive film. So remember, unveil the world through routine, keep the dialogue realistic, and maintain the same level of consistency throughout your film. I'm AJ, and I hope you found this lesson from Master and Commander interesting. What other lessons have you learned about filmmaking and storytelling from this film? Leave them down in the comments below, and like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Now, go out there and create stories.